the very least, to make sure they aren't able to reach 18 points and aren't able to get a good result in this game, because they want the tournament to go as long as possible so they can also rack up their own points, activate themselves, and also be in contention for that first place win.
All right, so we're keeping our eyes out very closely on those high-scoring players to see if they can get even the decent results, you said, to get into the danger zone for everybody else. Of course, there are plenty of players who've got some ground to make up. Of course, brubbba, down at the bottom of the table right now, will have the most motivation to try and keep this Superbrawl going as long as possible.
And players like Noerum and Chuso have good momentum from the last game. Let's see if they can keep that going for this game as well, and try, and again, start to get in reach of those 18 points, which is where we want all these players to be. We want them all to be in contention to win it, because it makes it that much more exciting, where every player is trying to get that first place, trying to get that win, and trying to become the Superbrawl champions.
Of course, as we saw from the rest of the EMEA event, particularly if we do get to the kind of the later rounds here, as you said, opening up more and more possibilities, it can mean that we will have a player who will leapfrog over the players who have more points than them just with that one big checkmate win.
Electric Overload is going to be the Mirage for this game. We haven't seen it this tournament, and I'm not entirely sure how viable it is, but it would be an absolute dream to see the Leona 3 reroll comp with just all these different aura items helping her stay alive and kill off everything else through essentially passive-aggressive stance and nothing else, because that's all she does. She doesn't even have to do damage. She just stands there menacingly, and everything else around her disappears after a few seconds.
Yeah, no, now you're talking my language. I absolutely love seeing those electric overload comps. We haven't, as I said, we haven't been great with one as of yet. I'm fully expecting to see, some of our players like Darkus be the ones to give it a try. I suppose, it is kind of limited in where that damage is going, though, because it's all around your units rather than with any kind of range. But we'll keep our eye out for the first one that's come in, so at least this time round we don't have prismatics to start us off too crazy, just the old classic golds.
Two generic augments here, Celestial Blessing and Preparation. Celestial Blessing will be the pickup here, keeping their option open for the rest of this game, making sure they can go into pretty much every single comp, because most comps can utilize that Celestial Blessing quite well. Portable Forge pickup, Infinity Force, Astral 3, and Nidalee on the board. This would be my dream scenario at stage 2 2 months ago. Now it would be my nightmare scenario, because Nidalee can't quite do it. And Vlad, we saw last game for Volta. So Volta, once again, a Vlad man, a Vlad believer, hoping this unit can carry him throughout the stage 2.
I feel like you wanted to work towards a gentleman of taste description. And with me, we've got a good amount stacked up on our Vladimir on the front line, so should do pretty well. brubbba, of course, as we mentioned, the player who's looking to make up the most ground in this game, has got a strong early augment in the Better Together, but unfortunately not a strong early board to go with it.
Yeah, I can say a level 3, 2 Karmas, and 1 Braum is going to be the board that gets him a win streak for the stage 2. So I think he's trying to at least guarantee he can lose streak, get this Broyson and Noerum special, go into 8th place, work on that econ, and hopefully find a very stable and strong board coming to that 3-2 or maybe even 3-5 roll down at level 7.
So from what we've seen from Volta before, we know that they certainly have a very good economic grasp of the game. So take a look across, and we can actually see it. Noerum is also going to be hitting at the bank books pretty hard. They can actually get themselves richer. And of course, we've got, as always, multiple all items going to be coming to the field.
The early Nomsy start for Noerum as well. Looking at the augments, though, fairly generic. No one has locked themselves into a specific trait just yet. There is no Hotshot for Cannoneers. There is no, Mirage Crest or Shimmer Kills Crest. Overall, very generic pickups, allowing players to be quite flexible in terms of what they're able to hit in their shops and what direction to go into once they roll down on stage 3.
Well, Deisik is going to show something a little bit different here. They've got hold of the Shimmer Scale immediately, and they've got themselves a determined investor. We did see this not necessarily work out amazingly before, but at least on paper, this should be a very strong setup, and even good enough, actually, to be able to force a win through against Noerum.
And having that determined investor as first item, it's that much more important to activate the Shimmer skill early on and get that rolling. Pretty much every Shimmer skill item scales because you get the gold generation from them, you get the, from Draven's Axe, etc. But I think determined investor is the most important in that case to get diamond hands as soon as possible and allow your main frontline tank, an Idis or a Shyvana in stage 3, to have that activated already and help you stabilize.
So as we get to see, Deisik, they've still got the possibility here Well, actually, no, they're going to keep their options a little bit open. Haven't quite got the amount of traits on the field to guarantee themselves 2 choices for the tome of traits, but feeling pretty happy. Note as well a little optimization there, keeping the determined investor off the field just to make sure it goes onto the unit that will definitely die.
And there's a set, another unit we've seen carry most comps throughout stage 2, a unit that can perform very well. I was corrected, he is not a one-punch man. I am so sorry for the complete opposite of what he is. He's a many-punch man, so now, chat, you were right, Twitch chat, as always, 4,000 IQ, correcting us, 1 IQ casters. And I will now, change my stance on him. Many-punch man will be his name for the rest of this set, 4 set.
It's not a promise you're going to need to keep for a very long time, but... Thank you, Twitch. I was thinking the same thing myself yesterday. I forgot to bring it up today. Just to try and get under my co-caster skin. Fortunately, Twitch is always there first.
Chuso taking a hit here, but not really doing too badly just yet. Just at 98 HP, so 2 HP, loss there. Noerum, though, back where he likes to be at the very least. He's comfortable. Yes, or the last game, rather, was breaking that mold a little bit. Ended up adding a middle-of-the-pack type of performance from him for stages 2 and 3, but now back in that loose streak angle, and it's where he feels comfortable. He's in a position to still not quite make 18 points, but still doing quite well in the standings, and it seems like he's a player that can pull this off in many different games and be consistent with his playstyle.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly from what we've seen from some of our games before, I have just really started to be very down on the idea of trying to play Lost Streak style, but I think as we've gone on and on, in particular the kind of setup we've got here where we're really benefiting from getting that economy online as fast as possible, the turnaround should be pretty impressive once it comes.
And we talked about it. This is not just that he's trying to force a loss streak, it's more also the augment pickup as well. This is something that I think every single good player in stage 2 wants to play heavily around the augment they pick up. If it gives you board strength, and if you have 3 items off of the first PvE rounds, you try and go for a win streak if you have a strong enough board. If it's not giving you board strength, there's no point in trying to fight for win streaks if it's probably not going to happen. Go for the loss streak instead. Lean into that augment and try and get that stage 3 stabilization online instead.
Well, we get to see Volta again with the 3 items on the front line. To see old Vladimir putting in the shift in the early going. Very Aatrox-like in that respect. It's keeping Volta up towards the top of the table. However, SwellerTiger, again, one of our players, we're keeping a very close eye on because they're the ones who is the closest to getting through and getting into activated checkmate mode. They get their win, they got that win streak, and the chances of them getting knocked out early on seem to be very slim indeed.
Portable Forge popping off as it should as a stage 2 pickup. It's going to be very, very effective, especially if you put it on the right unit. In this case, both Vlad and Set benefiting greatly from these fantastic items, allowing these players to be very strong throughout this. Oh my goodness, it's an Idis already on stage 2. Some players work for their Shimmo skill items, others just find the Idis in the shop, slam it in, works with the Taric. You have some damage coming in from the Karma as well, and you can get this determined investor going as soon as possible.
Yeah, I do like this a lot. I mean, you can see from the traits on the side of the screen, a very, very efficient setup here. The only thing Juicer is really missing is to have the good amount of money in the bank and a streak to call their very own up against SwellerTiger. Perhaps that streak will be provided in the opposite direction than they would have hoped for.
The only problem is there isn't really that much damage coming in. The Karma is still level 1 as well. So although you have a great tank setup, you have the Guardian, you have the Idis, you have the Sunfire Cape, is the damage going to be enough here to take down this Set? I'm not entirely sure. It's going to be a fairly close fight. The Set slowly powering away, punch after punch, trying to reduce the health on this Idis. The Thresh hooks the wrong target, but he's trying his best as well. I'm sure that's the case, but Set still unstoppable. Is it finally going to happen? He's going to go down. Not quite. I mean, he just can't be killed.
One punch too few.
And even if you killed him there, I mean, there was still 3 more units left, so not quite as close as we expected.
I was expecting that there
I'm
was
trying to make it exciting, all right, Peter? I'm sorry.
You should be sorry. Excitement is only for those high moments. We've got to save our excitement, store it up. Let's see. Oh my gosh.
Interesting Whispers emblem. Day 1, this was maybe the emblem to talk about. Performed so well for so many different players. And now Deisik trying to once again be a trendsetter in this day 3 and maybe pop off with this new emblem that's picked up.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it working extremely well for Varus in one of our off-stream lobbies. As we look across our economy, though, we can see that our players who have been suffering in the HP department have also been able to put together pretty healthy economies, particularly Noerum as well. A 5 loss streak and still above 50 gold.
This is where Noerum feels comfortable. I imagine it will be a stage 3-5 roll down simply because it just seems to be that much more impactful. If you hit or not, regardless of what you hit, rolling at 7, you're able to get that much stronger, especially when there is a chance for those 5 costs. A slim chance, but a chance nonetheless, especially considering if we might see, you know, a prismatic augment coming up. We saw it in the first 2 games, might happen in the third, and high-end shopping might once again become extremely impactful for players like Noerum.
Oh yeah, we know what it means to be on the very bleeding edge of what comps are possible. Just getting those prismatics in to raise the bar. The streak, though, remains intact for SwellerTiger, up against Darkest, who has got themselves a decent-looking volley there. Don't think this is the board to take Tiger off their perch.
I think the damage is not going to be there quite yet as well. The set is going to, again, I think perform quite well all throughout stages 2 and 3. Stage 4 is where he starts to fall off. It's where players start transitioning into stronger and better, higher cost units that can do a little bit more at that point in the game where there is much more damage coming in, and set doesn't quite have that same survivability.
CG's though doing the best they can to, well, say, try and take the least losses, but of course, that one was pretty harsh.
Oh,
and
it's not
into
prismatic.
Silver Augment territory. Yes, entirely the opposite way round. So
He was getting a bit of
course.
extra HP. He was not liking that SwellerTiger and Volta are always win streaking, always at 100 HP. He says, you know what? I'm going to be at the top of the standings this time around, but going to be down. Oh, no.
Do it.
Oh,
do
no,
it.
Peter. Surely
do
not.
it. Yeah,
Surely
no.
not.
They were teasing us for just a few more seconds. Admittedly, having the Cannoneer spatula means you're never ever going to do that in a million years. But we can dream.
And also having, you know, relatively low-cost units on the board without really a chance to have any 4-cost on the bench, either on the shop. So not really able to get the best results from a Recombobulator if that were to be the choice. Still, a pretty good setup for the Braum here. Very tanky throughout this stage as well, especially with all these item slams. Cannoneer, you're gonna laugh, Peter, but he did get an AD buff in the last patch notes, so possibly a little bit more relevant than it used to be.
Panda, I never laugh about anything, especially when it comes to large men with large shields punching their way through. I don't know if it's going to be a massive part of the damage profile here, because you can see brubbba so relaxed, just taking a swift drink, because they've got themselves a very well set up Gnar who is going to have a little bit of trouble getting through the Braum, but I think ultimately Skarambez, there's going to be a little bit of a hit to them. They've not taken many hits so far, but it's going to push them down on 30 gold right now, so not exactly in the best economic shape, but at least they've got the HP to fall back on as a cushion.
Deisik as well, a player that we've generally seen playing, maybe not a full win streak angle, but definitely almost always among the top 4, almost always having a strong board, really leading more into that staying healthy kind of playstyle, not trying to lose streak, not trying to get too much HP taken down in the first 2 stages of the game. In this case, now find himself at 60 HP, but has a lot of upside. Whisper's Emblem with things like Deja, for example, we saw in that day 1 can be incredibly strong and can transform units from great units to absolutely fantastic game-winning units if played correctly.
I'm trying to figure out where Deisik's going to be looking to go here, because, you know, they need to keep the Shimmer Scale in to keep the benefit of the Diamond Hand, so I presume they'd love to be seeing, you know, a Dragon Horde Alliance turning up so they can make use of what is currently a really diverse set of traits.
Leaning into the loss streak here, not trying to slam the Diamond Hands, purposely trying to get another loss here, go down to that 6 loss, get that extra gold, and again, like Noerum, same position for both of these players, but Deisik a little bit more HP, it looks like. Gonna try and go for that 3-5 roll down at level 7. But it looks like, unfortunately, Chuso is, despite his HP, quite weak, and Deisik is actually going to win this fight without even slamming that Shimmer Skill item.
Yes, well, we've seen it in our lobbies before. There's only so many players who can be win streaking, so many players who can be loss streaking as well. So looking at our table overall as we come to our stage 3 carousel, we've got nobody who's completely undefeated, but Volta, as we've seen so many times before, they are in the money right now. They've got themselves the win streak going, the only win streak in the lobby, and they're going to presumably continue to do what they've done before, which is push pressure down into the rest of the lobby.
I wonder if we can see Noerum now, because he's going to have a big roll down and a big stabilization necessary. We saw with Broyson so many times in days 1 and 2. I think that might be the best board to look at, because he's going to have a lot of gold. We saw it there. Deisik and Noerum both going to level 7, both rolling down, and both trying to stabilize Volta. It's just looking strong. He doesn't really have to go too much higher up. He's once again win streaking, once again looking very strong with that mage comp.
We'll keep our eye out on the side for any pop-ups. So there we go. Noerum is doing that roll down. They've got Tristana 2 coming in. We'll see if there's anything else from anybody else. It looks like it's not going to be perhaps as big of an adjustment as expected. But oh, wait a second. We do have our Siphon join the field, and did my eyes deceive me? Could it be a Yasuo as well?
Siphon on both sides, but one Siphon has a much stronger item in the case of SwellerTiger. We'll see which of these Siphons ends up doing it. Both still level 1, of course, not quite those 2-cost dragons, or level 2 dragons just yet. That would be a little bit too early for that unless players really were able to high roll, but it looks like Noerum's board might be strong enough. It will come down to the very edge here. Both Siphons jumping around, the healing coming in. The Yasuo is actually on the field as well. I missed that. And a huge execution. And Yasuo this early on is going to be incredibly impactful, Peter.
Well said, yeah, that was, I think, the 1% Yasuo is certainly not something that SwellerTiger would have been expecting to include in their plan. So, very disappointing for them, but for Noerum, they've got the chance to make their move up and start getting really established. Of course, so much of the effort is going to be put onto that Siphon.
There it is. Deja Whispers online. Deisik, I think the moment he got this emblem, he knew exactly what path to follow, exactly how to play out this late game, or at least the mid game for now. We'll see if he sticks to the Deja. I think he will, though, because already having a pair of Deja is going to be a huge prospective angle for a strong late game board.
As I said before, this is still an awkward situation here. We've got to be, we've got to have the 4 Whispers active, we've got to have the 3 Shimmer Scale active as well, or rather we won't. So we're going to be losing out on the early advantage gained from the Diamond Hands. Up against SwellerTiger here, who is pretty high up the table. Got themselves a decent setup, but the Siphon is going to drop down, and the power of the Whispers Deja is already on full display.
Funnily enough, the opponent's Thresh actually saved that Deja. The Siphon would have ulted towards the Deja otherwise, but it was brought forward, and instead the Siphon ulted and chomped down on the Elise, allowing Deja the time to kill off most of those units. So actually quite fortunate there in the case of Deisik's board.
Still, though, I'm fascinated seeing Deisik, being in such a position to give up on, for temporarily on those Diamond Hands just to make sure they've got the on-board strength. Got Noerum and Darkest down in the 40s. Deisik just up above them. Everybody else looking relatively healthy with Volta and Sweller up at the top. And there we go. Our economy check out. We can see there are a few players who've got a good amount of money in the bank, but Skarambez and Deisik, they're the ones who are suffering most economically.
Has to try. I mean, it's all going to be out this Deja too. If he's able to hit it naturally at level 7, it's going to be massive, because I assume he's going to want to econ up to level 8 and get there as soon as possible to really cap out this board, to start looking for those Yasuos as well if he wants to get Mirage 4 online. But it looks like he's going to be kind of forced to roll here. He needs to get a few more upgrades, especially trying to find that Deja 2. Not quite going to be the pickup there. It's going to be Elise instead. So Deisik going to be at the mercy of RNG a little bit for these next few rolls, for these next few rounds. If he's able to hit the Deja 2, though, that's a massive stabilization point.
Now, we're keeping a close eye on if we do get that Dragon Hoarder Alliance in to allow for this 3-way composition to get off the ground. For now, though, Deisik on 1 gold on 56 HP. They've got the Champion Duplicator waiting, but up against brubbba here, who's got the fully loaded Xiaoyu. I don't think, it's going to be a really hard barrier to get over.
We'll see now, as you mentioned, the next augment is going to make or break many of the positions these players are in if they're able to get the right augment pickup, especially with the reroll option available now in this set. It allows you to try and force that specific augment that might give you that massively capped out board for this stage 4 and this stage 5. So we'll see it now for Deisik. What augment will be the pickup, and what type of augment as well? Will it be prismatic? Will it be gold, or will it be a silver one? It will be gold for now. Will this be a reroll?
I'm fascinated to see the approach here, because right now they're going to have to give, with the current augments, they're really going to have to give up on one of these angles. Presumably it's going to be the Shimmer Scale. They decide to go for the Shell instead. So yeah, I guess until we get very late, maybe we won't even see that Diamond Hands emerging again.
And Volta, once again, 3 games in a row, the HP leader coming into stage 4. So dominant, and once again on the mage strat, running it back from game 2. Once again, that Nami 3 finds it a little bit later, but still has stayed very healthy throughout stage 3. And I mean, a very strong board as well coming into the stage 4.
And we're seeing, yeah, the return back to Nami again. Mage is something we've seen splashed in, a small amount of mages into so many comps. But going deeper into mage seems to be where Volta is almost exclusively on their domain. We have got Darkest going back to their big friend, the big old bear, with a decent selection of items and augments to keep them up and running. Should be able to shrug off a lot of the damage coming out from the Nami, but bear in mind, Nami has got double Archangel, so she will be growing in power as well.
I'm not sure if it'll be enough. I mean, just a really tough wall to crack down here on this Silas with the healing from the Nami and the just kind of automatic scaling from that rise in that back row. Another big win for Volta. Darkest in trouble. Noerum, once again, also looking to be in trouble for this stage 4. 31 HP for him. And we'll see what he can do. Has a Siphon already, has that Yasuo we talked about earlier. Does not have any gold, though. That is one thing he is missing.
He's going to have to pick that up from some sort of streak, but we're going to have to trade the HP if it's a lost streak, so hoping for the win, hoping for the Siphon to put them together. Level 8 doesn't seem impossible, and with a chance of slamming a Thieves' Gloves if they choose, holding up for the now, still got a few more items to come their way, but I have to imagine time is limited.
Quick reminder, Peter, the two players that were in closest contention to reach that 18-point threshold are currently first and second in this lobby right now, Volta and SwellerTiger. So these players have started off this day 3 so well and are really just trying to smurf their way into those 18 points and into a possible winning game 4.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredibly bad news for everybody else, particularly for our players who are on the lower points. Darkest, of course, we can see on the table on the right-hand side going down very low indeed. I'm certainly not a fan of seeing the Volibear come out again. We talked about it in the pre-show. It's been a very variable performer, never really, the break open the sky kind of level of power. You can see as well, the Darkest has got a lot of items still left on the bench and only 6 HP to make use of them.
Yasuo, an attractive pickup. Brubbba is able to pick it up, has that belt already on it. Maybe not the best in slot component for that Yasuo, but can be good with tank items as well. Something like a Sunfire Cape, a Warmogs is serviceable at the very least on this 5-cost legendary.
Oh boy, I think we're heading for our first elimination. Deisik, of course, cunningly keeping things open. That Whisper Deja has been just off the charts, so much better than I thought. Well, I thought it was going to be good. I didn't think it was going to be this good.
And this is Volibear. It's been inconsistent throughout this tournament. We saw it pop off, at least on stream, only once, if my memory recalls, if I recall correctly, yesterday, near the tail end of the day, we saw it actually get a top 4. But most of the time, at least from my memory, it just hasn't been able to do enough. I know Emperador had that game 5 or game 6 in day 1 that it didn't quite do enough, and he was eliminated because of this Volibear angle he tried to go for. And it might be a similar case here for Darkest. 6 HP. Any loss really at this point in stage 4 will be the end for this player in game 3.
I don't like the Darkest hasn't... Well, I suppose what we've seen from the more successful Volibear comes before is having the Anivia there as backup, because there's only so much the Volibear can do. At least in this instance, Volley should be able to chew through most of the backline before Siphon comes to calling. We'll actually go back, and the first bite is going to go onto the Ashe instead, leaving us in a 1v1. And in this case, Volibear is going to function much like the Shiryu, should, I believe, yes, get the hit through and keep Darkest alive on the very edge.
Darkest still in 8th. Chuso now at 25. Noerum finds a Siphon 2. Massive pickup. Chuso also has a Siphon 2 angle, but has a Shyvana as well, with a board that might lean towards this Shyvana more, with Nico already set up. But again, Siphon 2 is a Siphon 2. A 2-star dragon is what you need at this point in the game, especially if you're at 25 HP and somewhat close to being knocked out.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you just can't give it up, even if your intention was to go down more of a shapeshifter route, which we've seen a few players play around. I believe there's one in particular, but we'll come back to that in a minute, because Chuso is up against Brubbba. So Brubbba, remember from before, with the better together and with the ascension as well, a nice combination to get to that Organ activation a little bit more reliably. But it's all down to the Shiryu in the center of the scrum as we switch across to Deisik. And what are they up to? They're up against Darkest right now.
Whispers Deja, will this dragon be able to do enough against this Volibear? The health pool is so high, and I think it's not going to quite be enough. Maybe Darkest is finally able to turn the corner, finally able to stabilize. Not much HP to work with, but maybe just enough to at least get a few placements higher than 8th and try and just get some points to try and make those 18 points. Not this game, but maybe the next game.
Well, of course, the longer Darkest goes, the more likely it is I will follow Makes down that dark path of making horrible, horrible bear puns. Just wait. Just wait. It's coming.
Now let's go to roll with Chuso. Ends up deciding on Hand of Justice for the Siphon. Maybe gonna be, I mean, again, you had such great items for the Shyvana as well. You had so many AP items. It felt bad having to switch when you already had the Archangels built as well. Nico too, at least.
Well, at least we've got the Nico up to the 2-star as well, so it won't be quite as hurt from not having the shapeshifters in. We've got very strong Zoe, 2-star Zoe on the backline for Juso. So, you know, they've got themselves a ludicrously long losing streak, but that has to come to an end, if not this round, then the next. Darkest is going to be pushing up to the bottom of the table. Skarambez is also coming down with a lost streak of their own. The bottom of the table is starting to get a little too stuffy for my taste.
And Peter, the 3 players that are in the standings 1, 2, and 3 are currently also 1, 2, and 3 in this lobby in the same exact place. So I mean, if anyone in chat needs to check the standings, don't even bother. Just look at the lobby right now, and that's pretty much it, at least for the first 3 spots. And the 3 players that have the chance to make it to 18 points. Deisik, a reminder, needs first place, so the hardest feat to accomplish is for him. SwellerTiger only needs a 5th, and Volta only needs a 3rd to make 18 points in 3 games.
We're talking about standings. This round could make it happen. Volibear up against Siphon once again. This is only a 2-item Siphon. Volibear will need the time to scale up, and that Quicksilver is keeping them safe. There is, of course, the Zoe on the side there. Should be a huge disruptive factor, especially once those Archangels really start getting stacked up. Volibear's going to take quite a while to chew through, and unfortunately, I think they haven't quite got the defensive prowess to stay alive. Quicksilver has dropped, Volibear is gone, and Darkest will make their last choice for this game and get knocked out with another 8th place. That is very bad news indeed for a Turkish player.
It was so unfortunate, the positioning as well, because QSS is great, but it only lasts for so long. And then Nico was right next to that Volibear the entire fight. So once that stun prevention expired, Volibear was getting stunned every few seconds, and essentially he was not able to continue that DPS, continue that scaling further and further into the fight. Darkest eliminated an 8th. Unfortunate for one of the players that was most consistent all throughout day 1 and 2. The last 2 games has not had the best results.
No, not at all, and I'd really love to see them getting away from Volibear going forward. But we shall see. There's still a little bit of time. Well, I say there's a little bit of time. It's all going to be down to SwellerTiger and Volta, to Deisik to a lesser extent, as you said. Deisik whispering their desire to go through and get there first in this game, activate the position to end the competition in the next round. You see, the stager is beyond ridiculous, and we just don't have people playing comps in this game that can get to it very easily. The cast will go through most and still win out these rounds that look like they're already lost.
I have to say, 3-item Siphon is a lot scarier when he looks like a Heimerdinger in terms of the size there. And Deja able to do it for Deisik. Skarambez perfectly eliminated to 0 HP. Not a great result for him, a player that was near the middle of the pack coming into this game and now has not been able to reach those 18 points with a 7th place in this Game 3.
Yeah, that's all bottom 4s, and this is the worst game so far. So very, very long road for them to come back. We're also definitely seeing, and I'm sure we will see at the end of this game, a huge separation between our top and bottom performing players, which is, of course, as you said, it's a heartbreak for all the players who've got less points right now, because they've played incredibly to get to this point.
Chuso, one of those players. The angle here on both the Deja and Zoe not ideal for the rest of the team fight. Thresh able to stop the Zoe from doing her thing for the first few seconds of this fight might be actually quite crucial, but even more crucial is this Siphon bite. The dash comes through, the CC comes through on the Lulu as well, though, and not quite enough damage to take down the Deja. And Siphon once again charges but can't quite get the kill. Whisper's Deja is so strong, Peter.
I love it, particularly in combination with the Bloodthirster, because once you know, Deja's only really getting into trouble in the late rounds as Juso will be thrown bodily out there. At least Juso has had some good games, but a 6th in place with the 3rd and the 7th in the first round means they are still lacking for points. But back to Deja, the Bloodthirster, I think, does such an incredible job of making the late rounds nearly always go in Deisik's favor.
Especially the Thresh as well. I love the synergy between, you know, having the Deja and the Thresh on opposite corners. I mean, the Thresh hooks the unit and brings it closer to that Deja Wind Blast, able to get more units damaged very early on.
So with our top 5, we have Noerum managing to do a good job of win streaking themselves. So they built back up to a pretty healthy economy, and they managed to get Nomsy up to maximum stars, if not maximum strength. The Evoker Emblem would certainly go pretty well on our friend Rise to get some real good secondary damage going, which up until this point has been a little lacking for Noerum's comp.
And does, commits to his game plan and executes it perfectly. Lost streak into stabilization, into fast level 9, into what could be one of the strongest boards in this lobby. 6 win streak for now, and that's without even really pumping this gold to continue making his board stronger. 72 gold to work with, hopefully going to this PvE round and then rolling it down at 9 to try and find as many 2-cost legendaries as possible.
We see Nomsy doing a great job as well. Bear in mind, this is Trainer 3 Nomsy. So each one of these blasts are going to be taking a big chunk out of some of the squishier units. The target access is amazing. And maybe we finally see the beast that can take down the Whispers. Deisik just absolutely furious after that round. But apparently, the lobby has started to catch up with them.
Volta also dropping a bit, SwellerTiger as well. Is this, I think we're getting the most doomed timeline. Deisik might actually win this lobby. Currently at 34 HP, SwellerTiger only needs a 5th and Volta only needs a 3rd to reach 18 points in this game. How do you end up capping this board? There's no level 9 here for Deisik. That much is clear, doesn't quite have the gold to work with. And the lobby is going quite fast. No one is really at that 60 or 70 HP point at this point in stage, almost stage 6 now.
Well, I think this is why Deisik was so upset, you can see on his camera, that they've got nothing really to fall back on. They've got this board, and if there are now boards in this lobby that can actually beat this current setup, then this doesn't feel like there's many more ways to go. I believe this is Volta's Ghost we're seeing here. Of course, because the only person we've really been seeing playing Nami. So we'll switch across and keep our eye out. Brubbba, of course, one of our players who does need to finish well here, or they've got almost no chance of making it through as our checkmate winner. Brubbba will get the big knockups coming through. It's going to come down to a very close end.
The Siphon almost able to do it, runs away with so little HP, but still Brubbba takes the hit, takes the HP loss there. And we'll see, Noerum has continued to win streak all throughout stage 5, 30 gold to work with, has gone level 9, still has gold to roll with, and continue capping out this board.
So we've got the one item coming in from our friend the Treasure Goblin, as we take a look and see how we are doing economically. So Noerum, yeah, up to an 8 win streak, as you can see on the side and on the bottom of your board, and also economically doing well. We noted that Deisik is going to have to try and build up their economy again, even if they're in the #1 spot right now. But, we've got SwellerTiger just below with a good amount of money as well. Volta and Brubbba, though, they're in pretty dire financial straits. Their current boards are going to have to make it work.
Yeah, pretty much in the most desperate positions in this lobby. They don't have much gold to continue upgrading their boards with, and just have to try and work on positioning and work on getting the right fights to try and squeeze out not a 1st at this point or a 2nd, probably just a 3rd or a 4th is what they're hoping for in this game 3.
We do know, of course, that Volta, with 12 points, only needs to be able to get in 6, which would require a top 3 performance, which is not so very far away, but the lobby is starting to accelerate even further. We've got Deisik coming in again. We'll see if they can put out anything more.
Look at this perfect diagonal for the Deja as well. Not, a great look here for Brubbba. It's going to be so much damage rolling through as we're seeing, and just going to become more and more as the Rage Blade helps the attack speed scale on the Deja. Can Xiaoyu reach this Deja in time? I'm not so sure that will be the case. Lulu might have one more ult here to CC, but not even necessary. The Xiaoyu has been deleted. Brubbba will take another big hit, 3 units left alive, and that will be enough. Brubbba out in 5th. A better result in the past few games, but still going to be lagging behind most other players in the standings.
Yeah, not what they were hoping for there, but they did have a fairly big impact on the lobby. Volta, though, as we said, they are 1 place away from getting into a checkmate position in game number 4, round number 4. But it's seeming pretty far away. A 4-round loss streak. Got the 1-star Zoe. I don't know. The front line is very good, but questions have been raised about what Nami can do in the late game.
And SwellerTiger has already guaranteed he reaches at the very least 19 points at this point in this game 3. So one player will already have a chance for that, straight up win in game 4. We're going to see how this fight goes, where Siphon ends up dashing to right onto the Nami. Challenger Siphon strikes again, kills off one of the most important units on Volta's board right away, and at 4 HP, this might be it. I don't think Volta comes back from this. The Zoe is not quite going to do enough. The Alawi especially is just really a tank, and a massive loss for Volta here, taken down in 4th, only reaches 17 points, Peter.
Yeah, that's exactly what they wanted to try and avoid, but that is the way the cookie crumbles, I suppose. We've seen it so many times. The players can kind of reach the peak of their power, and then they just kind of are left holding on, hoping they can get one more place. But the top 3, or top 2 now, will be looking very, very strong indeed. And I think, for both of these comps here, the target access they have just makes it almost impossible to keep a backline together.
There's Deja 4. Deisik has to be very careful about where these Siphons go, and if they hunt down his dragon at the start of the fight, it would not be a good start. And Deisik, reminder, has to get first here. Noerum is just trying to get as many points as possible, but Deisik needs a first to reach 18 points to be enabled to get the win on that game 4. Deja untouched for now in that corner, firing off the Wind Blast, scaling up slowly, but getting CC'd a tiny bit, so slowing that down, slowing down that damage. Now targeting the Siphon. And this next ult is going to be a whole lot of damage, but is it going to be enough, Peter?
I don't think so. No, unfortunately. I think the aggro drop from Siphon just dashing away, it makes such a big difference to the end of the round. Still, though, this is on the edge here of being able to pick up another item, which could swing the matchup.
Looks like it's Mystic. They're trying to hover over the Mystic emblem. Noerum needs to have a little bit more MR against that Deja. Gonna pick it up in time. Deisik opted to essentially just allow that to happen, prioritizing the Shojin a tiny bit more here.
Oh boy, it does seem more and more likely we're going to be seeing Deisik missing out by a tiny margin. Honestly though, even if we've got SwellerTiger in position to try and end, if you've only got one player who is, positioned to end the entire tournament in the next round, you talked about before, our players will be trying to do everything they can to prevent that from happening, and it's a lot easier to do when there's only one player to watch for.
The Shroud comes through, does not hit the Deja, but Siphon is on Deja's side, and this could be a Siphon rolling right up to that Deja as things start off, but no, goes to the Lulu instead and puts itself in the scope of this Deja. The Wind Blast is coming through. Siphon taken out. That's the big DPS dealer on the side of Noerum's board, taken down early. Surely Deja can clean up the rest of this board, but maybe it's still not quite enough. Many units left alive. The Bloodthirster's helping out. Is it going to be enough? Peter, it's going to be so close, but not quite.
He's not dead, though. He's not dead. So I think, the big difference for me in that last round was Siphon never got to drop the aggro from Deja, and Deja, of course, is the unit that builds up that magic resist shred over time. So, and of course, in this case, the Whisper's damage as well. I think the positioning here is going to be incredibly important to keep that Siphon away for long enough to make sure of it that this will be the end for Deisik, and forcing them to play at least 2 more rounds to be able to claim any kind of crown.
Shroud is there as well. You have to watch out for that, and for the Siphon, and for the Bartles as well. So positioning mattering quite a bit in these final few fights. Noerum has won the last 2. In theory, he should be the one to win this next one as well, without much changing. But is that going to be the case? Deja just trying to do her best to deal as much damage. Now targeting the Siphon once again, but Siphon's still alive. Maybe dash one more time. It goes the wrong way, but again, it's a 1v5 or a 1v6 here, and I think Deja just can't do it by herself. Not enough damage. Rise also doing damage herself in the back. Uh-oh.
The bard stays alive to the tail end.
The Rise does come through.
Oh, come on!
Versus Heimerdinger.
It's Heimerdinger! The cruise missile comes and drops down Deisik. The deadliest unit in TFT has finally been confirmed. It's the little guy with the glasses and the big old grenade.
I'm going to throw it back, Peter, to day 1. Every other cast